Foundation. With me today is Rajitha Velikatori.
Hi, I'm Raj, and I am the youth co-chair for Others Day.
Raj has been working with us on the Kindness Youth Leadership Team, which is part of 7 Days Make a Ripple, Change the World. 7 Days' mission is to provide opportunities encouraging people to increase kindness through knowledge, mindset, and behaviors. Raj has been with us this year and last year, and this year she's been working on Others. Raj, tell us a little bit about Others Day.
Others Day is all about recognizing the differences that we all have, but also about the kindness that we can share in helping each other feel safe and happy in our communities.
We couldn't have any of this without our sponsors. We want to thank our sponsors very much. We appreciate all donations and sponsorships as we host our 7th annual 7 Days Make a Ripple, Change the World.
We also want to thank our 7 Days partner cities. They have been able to make this possible for us and help us in making a ripple and changing the world.
In our Others Day program, you're going to hear from 2 charities featured out of 14. The Jewish Community Relations Bureau, AJC, and Urban Scholastic Center. Raj, tell me what you have enjoyed about putting Others Day together.
It's been really awesome to learn about our speaker this year, Dr. Izzeldin Abuelaish, and he has such an amazing story of just redemption and revival and being able to live through a tragedy. I'm sure you know all about that. He really has an amazing story, and we're just really excited to hear from him this year.
That's great. I agree with Raj. Dr. Izzeldin Abuelaish comes to us right now from Canada, and he comes via the Gaza Strip and Israel, and he has a wonderful story, a heartbreaking story, but also an inspirational story to share with us. We know you're going to enjoy today's program very much. So let's all enjoy Others Day.
evening. Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be with you at this event. I would like to thank all those who were behind this successful meeting, because the one who is not thankful to people is not thankful to God. So I thank all of you who came to support and to make it happen. Each of us, he or her, has a story. And the stories are not just stories, words to read. Stories, they have a meanings and they have a life in order to learn from them and to take the messages and wisdom from these stories. I will share with you my life story as a Palestinian Canadian, and to share with you what I have experienced, learned, and what I have done and yearned for the whole of my life. These days, with the global pandemic and the threat we face, which equalize between all the people, and that there are serious challenges facing our world, but I believe there is no greater challenge than the lack of personal responsibility. Taking personal responsibility transcends all the circumstances and situations in which we find ourselves, where misery, injustice, incitement, fear, mongering, violence, hatred, poverty, fear, and diseases are endemic and increasing all over the world, making it a dangerous place where, sadly, women and the children and the poor are the victims. This suffering is man-made and caused by people and the constitutions which are not made by God or the rules of nature. And this is where the hope can begin, because it's man-made. And we, as people that today we are coming, we can unmade it by taking actions. Every day, each of us adds a small portion by watching what is happening to the world and even to your own world, your community, and thinking it's not important, saying there is nothing we can do. What makes the evil to flourish is good people to do nothing. My life and the story and the tragedy was a war. And in our life, we face ups and downs, hardships, challenges, and the tragedies. But always, we want to discover ways to be able to learn and find calmness inside ourselves for a better human being and our world. We need to challenge ourselves to work for a just human world. In this world, people are fighting to live. At the same time, there are people who are living to fight, and we need to ask, what are we doing here? We were created to have a sense of purpose, to live and to give life to others. I understand and realize the meaning of suffering and loss, the loss of loved ones, safety and security. As a child, my life was a war. As life increased my aches, pain, and suffering, it also amplified my maturity, awareness, strength, and didn't allow all the difficulties to kill my dreams. I found myself in a life as challenging as a raging and wild ocean. But every great dream begins with a dreamer. Always, in particular to our children and to new generation, always remember you have within each of us the strength, the patience, and the passion to reach for the stars, to change the world. What makes us great is the challenges we face. Keep going in the face of hardship. Don't underestimate or reject yourself. Don't say no till you try. The first step in failure is to lose confidence. You can, and each of us can be the one you want. Nothing is impossible in life. And that's what I learned. Everything, as my daughter Bisan, God bless her soul, said, everything starts small and then becomes big. Everything starts in one place and goes in different directions. This event, which is here, which is small, it's going to all our world and make the change we are expecting. As Martin Luther King said, if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you must keep you moving forward. The theme of my life has been building bridges with people and branching into new beginnings. I learned as a physician what life and death actually mean when a person dies. I saw the hope in the newborn baby I delivered. There is no difference between the cry of a newborn American, Palestinian, Israeli, German, Canadian. It's a cry of a new life and a new hope. We were born all equal and free, and we need to live as equal and free. And that's what is important. And no one is free as long as others are not. So it's time to stand for the freedom and equality of all. We are not doing them a favor because it's the interest of all of us. I know the wound is painful, large and deep, but I learned at the same time, after seeing my daughters killed in front of my eyes, that I don't want anyone on earth to see what I saw. These lovely daughters, Bisan, who was 20, Mayar, who was 15, Aya, who was 14, and my niece, who was 17. I am proud of them in their life and in their death. Tragedy can't be the end of our lives. We can't allow it to control and defeat us. I don't need to live with the constant pain. I don't want to be trapped in the painful moments of my life, but to keep moving, carrying the spirits of these innocent people, innocent daughters, and to transform this tragedy into a blessing and to challenge this world. I need and will continue with my life, never forgetting the dreams, love, and hopes of my daughters, and of course, to bring them justice. With what? It's not with the bullet. The bullet is the weapon of the weak. We all have stronger means. It's the wisdom. It's the kind, courageous words and the good deeds. And that's what I gave my daughters, the oath I gave them. I will never give up. I will never forget them, but to keep moving. As Einstein said, life is like riding a bicycle. To keep balanced, we must keep moving, not to collapse from the first challenge we face in our life. And as I said, nothing is impossible. From Jabalia camp as a Palestinian refugee, to go to the School of Medicine in Cairo, to London, to Italy, to Belgium, to Harvard, and then to be the first Palestinian to practice medicine in an Israeli hospital. I succeeded to achieve these dreams and these plans. I wasn't born with a golden spoon, but I have the faith and the confidence and the hard work. It took time, but I reached there, and that's what I am determined to keep it. But at the same time, I will never forget from where did I come. And what can I do to make a change in our world, whether for Palestinians, Americans, Canadians, anywhere I can make a change, I have to give hand. Some may see tolerance as a weakness, but they don't know that resilience, in particular the positive resilience and tolerance, need a greater power than that needed for revenge, and silence is more powerful than words. But when we speak about war, what is war? Even though we are in the 21st century, it seems humankind hasn't learned the lesson. We still have nations, countries, people discriminated against, oppressing, intimidating, discriminating. We still have parties, factions, and media groups who want to control how people think and how they live. That's why we still have war and conflict around the globe. And the world is not enough endemic with the pandemic we face, but also it's endemic with violence, hatred, injustice. This violence is filling every corner of our world. Inside our homes, in the streets, conflict arises when we violate someone's honor and dignity and destroy both their self-esteem and self-respect. These what I call them socio-economic diseases. They cross barriers and borders, and we all live in a small world. No one is far from risk, and we all are impacted either directly or indirectly. We all are potential victims. How much of this suffering do we know about in our world? How much of war do we know and see through the media? Is it the soldier who is killed or wounded, or the innocent child, daughter, mother, or old? War is about our children, grandchildren, dying before they are fully adults, or being disfigured, wounded, or mentally scarred for life. We hear and see just the numbers. It's time to look at people as people, not numbers. People are people and are equal. It's hundreds of thousands of human beings, of our brothers and sisters dying years before their time. It's our children seeing their bodies, limbs blown off their bodies. It's millions of people separated forever from the ones they loved. And that's the war. When a Palestinian poet described it, he who looks at the sea doesn't know the sea. He who sits on the shore doesn't know the sea. Only he who immerses himself, dives, takes risk, and forgets the sea in the sea. No one knows the suffering until they have suffered. No one knows freedom until they have lost it. No one knows the loss until it happens. How simple is the war when we see it with the glasses. War for me is a genocide. It's a torture. It's a propaganda. It's dishonesty and the slavery of humanity. War and injustice are not to be documented, but to be prevented. Eisenhower said, "A nation that continues year after year to spend more money on military defense than on the programs of social uplift is approaching spiritual death." And I see our world. We need to revive our spirits. We need to protect people in this world who are our human fellows. There is no humanitarian war. Only peace is sacred and humanitarian. People sometimes, after the tragedy, they tell me they are losing hope. But today, and this event, we are here to declare it loudly. There is hope, and we will not lose hope. Hope means life and gives life. Hope is about overcoming and conquering the inertia of helplessness. Persistent hope requires you to have faith, kindness, perseverance, patience, persistence, determination, and sincere hard work to make the impossible possible. Hope is the substance of life. It helps all of us to keep us alive when everything else is gone. With hope, we can have a promise. For those who endure suffering, loss, and tyranny, hope is the remedy. Tomorrow is hopeful, and we all need to try with all we know and without fear of all we don't know. As a doctor, I will never lose hope in treating any patient as long as the patient is still alive. Whatever the situation is, even in a critical situation, the patient is still alive and there is hope. So we need, even these days, we hope and we have the hope that this pandemic will be a history and to resume our life. So tomorrow is hopeful, and we must try with all we know. After the tragedy, a friend of mine said to me, people will forget. I said to myself, am I going to forget? I start thinking, what can I do? And hearing the voices of my daughters Bisan, Mayar, Aya, and my niece Noor, don't weep us, achieve our dreams, continue the journey we started. I can't say and will never say that they are dead. They are just away from me. They left quickly with a cheery smile. They left quickly like lightning. Didn't say a word farewell. They have left, and I was in desperate need for them. Death is not the end and can't be the end. Death is the road, and we are the travelers. The departure of our loved ones has large and great meanings. They didn't leave, and they were the simplest people in their life and have a great understanding of life. They are the closest to people with their souls and the spirits. They rejected violence and never hurt anyone's feeling. They were never anyone's enemy. They refused to hate. They said, "Oh, Father, don't weep for us. We passed on, and our names are eternal, and they will remain eternal. What did you do for us? Today and every day I say to them, I don't weep you, Bisan, Mayar, Aya, and Noor. Rest in peace. You are alive and will keep you alive. Their names were written in sand before they died, and now their names are written on the tomb. And this moment, I can say to them, their names are written in the hearts, minds of people in this world. I am in debt in my life, as I believe that the strongest members in any society are women. The women are the author of the survival story of our world. They are the ones behind our existence and successes. Throughout history, women have injected humanity with the spirit of hope, love, empathy, passion, peace, and life. Can you imagine our world without women? The advancement of a human civilization is a joint project. The involvement of women and participation of women is an integral part for our civility and our humanity and the peace we are missing. Women complement men and they don't compete with men. Education, we need this education, which helps to smash and destroy the mental, physical barriers within each of us and between us. Through women, we can hold on to our hopes. They are the balance of our world, and now the world is imbalanced. Women, they give life and nurture life to endure this world and have a stable, safe, secure world. It's the function and the duty of women women's education and role. That's why I am optimistic and will keep hopeful about our future, because I know when we all come together as men and women, elders and the children, for the collective good for all people and the advancement of our communities and societies, the whole world will benefit. Instead, it's time to say it loudly. Instead of saying, behind a successful man, there is a successful woman, we need to say, parallel or side by side to a successful man, there is a successful woman. No peace without women, and no peace without respect of human rights. I learned from my children, and I encourage all of you to listen to your children. They teach us. My daughter Shada, who was severely wounded with her sisters, she was in the high school studying day and night to be one of the top 10 in Palestine in the high school. She was treated at the hospital I worked at in Tel Aviv, with her eye ruptured and 2 fingers completely torn. She was treated. And her birthday was the 20th of January, and she was wounded 16th of January. Said, Shada, we have to celebrate the birthday. It wasn't easy, and we are away. Even my daughters were buried, and even I wasn't with them. I can't say to them or even to be with them at this moment, in times of life and in times of death. She said to me, we have to celebrate. If I can't see with my right eye, I am blessed to have the left. If I can't write with my right hand, from tomorrow to bring me papers and pencils to practice with my left hand, I have to continue to carry the dreams of my sisters. She spent 4 months at the hospital. She left. She lost the sight in her right eye, but the eye was kept in place with malformed fingers. And the high school exam in Palestine, it's a national exam for the whole country at the same time. I didn't expect much from Shada. She did the exam. And the day they announced the result on the radio, Shada succeeded as nothing happened to her. She succeeded 96%. 16th of June 2015, Shada graduated from the School of Engineering, computer engineer at the University of Toronto. And that's the message, that's the hope, that's what are we going to send to people who are thinking of revenge. The revenge is education, and to keep moving forward. So her journey inspired and drives me. She refused to be a victim, and education was her way. And when I say what is the antidote of hatred and revenge, is to learn from our children, and that there is no roadmap to peace, but the roadmap to humanity and success. We need to look inside and to look around, to ask, to learn, to connect, to discover, and most important, to act. Because the most holy thing in the universe is the freedom and the human being. As I said, everything starts small, then becomes big. Don't underestimate your action. Give a smile, give hand to others. And I want to tell you the story of the starfish. When a heavy tide threw hundreds of starfish, a young girl started to think of saving lives, as most of girls who become women, mothers, sisters, to save lives and to give life, started to throw one by one into water. A man came and looked at the girl and asked her, "What are you doing?" She answered, "I am saving lives," with her purity and good heart. He was her bride and said, "But it's not going to make any difference." But she was confident, and to teach him a good lesson with evidence, with wisdom, with action, when she threw another starfish into water and said to him, it made a difference to that one. Each of us, when we leave, what will be your starfish for tonight, not to say tomorrow, start from today, because action is needed to survive connected as brothers, cousins, and neighbors, and get rid of the threats and fears and express it and manipulate it. No one can ask others to live and coexist or accept the fear and injustice. Fear and incitement are used these days as a weapon and exploited to advance the interest of an entity or a political agenda. We must not be trapped in that. We must expose it, and we must show that life is precious and that none is ignored or considered unworthy of a secure and a prosperous life. We all need to be people of values, vision, and leadership, because we all bleed the same color, and we all cry. It's time for all of us. Any free person will refuse to die in silence. We must show that life, as I said, is precious. The world can endure with the truth, justice, and the freedom to overcome the problems facing our world. The truth is vital. As Jesus said in Gospel of June, "Seek the truth, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." We need to be honest to reconcile with ourselves. Then we can start the process of reconciliation. Truth goes side by side with the responsibility. It's the responsibility of all to speak the truth and expose the lies. Because for any human being, freedom is essential, crucial to our dignity and our ability to be fully human. And if you can't say the right word, don't upload the wrong one. As I said, we all bleed the same color, and there is no cause to justify the killing of any human being. It's my solid belief that safeguarding the dignity, safety, and well-being of a human being exceeds any other considerations. Building close ties between people is one of the most effective ways of preventing conflict over the long term. These ties are based on human values, freedom, equality, and respect. Politics to be transformed and practiced as medicine and education as a human equalizers. We need to reform politics to equalize and to humanize, to stabilize, to socialize, and harmonize between people. From exclusion to inclusion, from isolation to integration. Martin Luther King said, "Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter." In the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. I came here because, with all of my heart, I believe that we all can make a difference. I believe in each of you. I have hope and faith. Let us smash all the imaginary barriers that we created. Let us have faith, hope, but most important, to act to make the 21st century the century of humanity and women's education and role. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Dr. Abuelaish, thank you so much. If you would like to know more about his book, I Shall Not Hate, I'd really encourage you to stop by this 7 Days online store, and you can buy it there. I just read it. It's a beautiful human story, but also provides a more nuanced look at the sort of geopolitics of the Middle East. So a great read there. Also, I would encourage you to learn more about Dr. Abuelaish's charity, Daughters for Life. You can find that at daughtersforlife.com. Quick note, by the way, I just found out that we have 350 people joining us virtually, and if we were in a time and place where we could all gather together, that means we would have a pretty packed crowd here in Leawood, Kansas tonight. So welcome to all of you again who are watching virtually. We are going to take a quick pause for a couple of moments to set the panel discussion and move this evening along, and would urge you to take a look at this video from our Others Day partner charities.
My name is Gabriella Geller. I'm the Executive Director of the Jewish Community Relations Bureau, AJC. We are the representative body of the Jewish community of Greater Kansas City, but actually all of Western Missouri and Kansas, in terms of public policy and government affairs, interfaith and intergroup relations, and then also working with media and with law enforcement, as well as with schools, to address incidences of anti-Semitism when they do occur. The mission of the Jewish Community Relations Bureau, AJC, is to be the Jewish community advocate for combating anti-Semitism and pursuing justice. The reality is that anti-Semitism has been on the rise for the past 5 years. We've seen, some of the deadliest acts of anti-Semitism that the American Jewish community has ever faced in the last couple of years, and our own community knows that only too well. We've also surveyed our Jewish youth and have found that nearly 75% of Jewish youth in our region say that they have experienced or witnessed an act of anti-Semitism in their schools. And so we've drastically increased by adding a new staff member over this past year. We've drastically been able to increase the amount of work that we're doing with youth, with teachers, with schools, to try to really be proactive in that space instead of just reactive. And if you feel that your community would benefit from an educational presentation on anti-Semitism, that's something that both we're very happy to offer, and also would be incredibly helpful to our community to be able to enlist more and more allies who are educated on this topic. The more support that we have from the community, the more we can continue to build our organization and meet this moment. And you can do that by donating online through our website at jcrbajc.org. You can also contact us directly if you'd rather do it that way, or send a check. We're very happy to work with either individuals or foundations who are looking to support the work that we're doing.
My name is Dr. Wes Parham, and I'm the Executive Director of the Urban Scholastic Center. Our mission is to build leaders from here, for here, through Jesus in education. And so for us, that's really about looking at the county where we're at. Specifically for us, that's Wyandotte, and how do we produce leaders from this area, for this area. And we believe that two of the most transformative experiences in building leaders are Jesus and education. And so that's what we try to do. And so when we say a leader, we have criteria in each one of our 6 domains that we think will be the type of person we'd like to see flourish here in Wyandotte County. One of our pressing needs right now, and one way that people could be of great assistance to us, is we need some new playground equipment. Our playground equipment is dated, and actually it was built before the new kinds of playground equipment, so it's made out of wood. And so if we want to offer our students something better, is one way that people could definitely participate with us. I mean, there are any number of needs. We need volunteer tutors right now, individuals who are willing to give up a little bit of their time to help students who are doing virtual schooling, and need someone to kind of help them through that process. And those are probably two real high needs right now that we'd love to see people engage with us on. So they can go to our website. We actually have a volunteer form there, and they can actually just type in that they'd like to do tutoring. If their website is www.theusc.org, and there's a link on there that says get involved. If they're interested in, doing some playground equipment or some things like that, reaching out to me directly is also an option. My email is wes@theusc.org, or my work number is 913-230-5053. But yeah, I'd love to connect with them either way.
All right, we have some introductions to make here for our interfaith panel. I want to start first with Mindy Corporon. Give a little wave here. Of course, the founder of Faith Always Wins and 7 Days Make a Ripple, Change the World events. Hi, Mindy. Second, yes, big round of applause.
Thank you.
Next up is Pastor Adam Hamilton, who launched Church of the Resurrection, where we are here in 1990. Thank you so much for making this great space available to us tonight. And third, down on the end there, we have Rabbi Arthur Nemitoff, who is the senior rabbi of the Temple Congregation B'nai Jehudah, which is the largest Reform congregation in the area. Welcome. And then, of course, welcoming back Dr. Izzeldin Abuelaish to the stage. Yes. Didn't mean to cut anyone's applause short, sorry. We are going to have a panel discussion, and the intent is that we talk about overcoming hate, fear, and really, I'm a mom of 2 young girls, and I'm eager to talk also about raising the next generation of compassionate and thoughtful drivers of peace, too. I kind of want to start with you, Mindy, if that's all right, talking about, I know you get asked this question a lot, how do you do this? How have you been able to overcome and forgive, and how are you able to do that, and why?
Thank you. Thanks, Haley, for being here. How am I to overcome hate? How do I do that? I was thinking about the word anger when Dr. Izzeldin was speaking. That sometimes we just throw out the word hate and say someone shouldn't hate. But where does hate come from? And it comes from an experience that happened to us. And many people would say, I have a lot of reason to hate because of what happened to our family, that my dad and son were murdered, and Terry Lamano. And it did make me angry. It does make me angry. But if I let that fester, it's like a disease. And Dr. Izzeldin and I talked about this almost all day yesterday, that hate is a disease. Now, anger is real. It's a real feeling, just like love and joy and happiness. Those are real feelings that we should have, and we should allow ourselves to have them. But when we get to a point where there's hate, it becomes a disease, and it can be debilitating, just like any disease that we would get. No one wants to have a disease. So why would we want to harbor hate? So I didn't want to harbor hate toward the shooter. So me particularly, in our instance, I didn't want to feel that. I wanted to feel joy and love, the love that my dad and son offered to me, and that my family and my church family and my friends offered to me. So just as Dr. Izzeldin said, I have to make a choice every single day.
Does that practice of choosing a more peaceful way? Does that get any easier over time, or is it something you have to work on every day?
Well, it's funny that you asked that today. So from the experience of the tragedy, yes, and then no. So some people might know that the shooter, in our instance, is filing an appeal. And I've chosen to not watch that. I've chosen to not pay attention to that. I will find out from the district attorney what happens. I don't need to put myself in the middle of that and allow myself to feel that anger and that hate again. I have a lot of people around me who offer kindness and love, and I want to focus on kindness and love. So is it easier? Yes and no, because I'm not as debilitated as I was when they were murdered. I'm physically not as debilitated. But yet, when actions happen or something happens that bothers me, like it bothers anyone, I can make a choice to be kind and not to be angry, which could lead to hate.
So it is very conscious. It takes some effort, yeah. Dr. Abuelaish, I got to talk with you yesterday, and you kind of approached this through a medical lens, which I like, because you did call hatred a disease.
Yeah, it's important. We speak about hatred, and no one is asking what is hatred. So we need to define hatred. Hatred for me, I realized it, and that's what I'm doing. Hatred is the contagious, as COVID that we are facing. It's a contagious, destructive disease and the result of exposure. These are the components of hatred. Hatred is a contagious disease and is the result of exposure. Exposure, as we are exposed to COVID, when someone is exposed to infected person or to the virus, and the exposure to hatred is the result of harm induced. So it's induced, and that's what do we need. And no one of each of us wants to be infected with COVID. What do? We put the mask, we are immunized. And now it's the vaccine is the one which is going to give us solid immunity. I hope we will have one day a solid immunity against this COVID, and we need to be immunized. In what way? Primary prevention, through preventing the causes which it triggers hatred, and to tackle it. And so we need to ask 5-10 times why the people are hated others, or why people are violent. This is one thing. Then secondary prevention, to find out, to immunize the people about it. And that's what I say. The antidote of hatred is education and awareness, as smoking. When we educate the people about the consequences of smoking and to be aware that this is harmful to them, they quit smoking. And the third, mitigation, and that's what is needed on daily basis to remind them this is harmful, don't allow it to impact you.
Yeah. Rabbi Art, of course this is Others Day, and the Jewish people have unfortunately been seen as others for thousands of years. So how do you talk about this with your congregation?
I'd like to tell a story. It happened 60 years ago, almost to the day. I was 7 years old. I was in the lunchroom at school eating my lunch. It was Passover. So I had to bring my lunch from home, and I had a matzah sandwich. And it was matzah and jelly. I'm sitting there eating my lunch, and I'm surrounded by some other boys. And this boy across from me looks at me, takes his hand, and smashes my matzah sandwich to bits. I didn't know how to respond. Started to cry. Kid next to me said to him, "Why'd you do that?" The kid across me said, "He's a kike," which is a derogatory term for someone who's Jewish. Now, I didn't know that at the time. I didn't know the term. A teacher apparently was right behind us and was listening. She came over and she said to him, "You know, there are no kikes here. All that are here are brothers," because we're all boys at the table. And she said, you just destroyed your brother's sandwich. Is that what brothers do? You need to apologize to your brother. The kid looked at her, looked at me, said, I'm sorry. And she said, what are you going to do about food? He said, well, here, you can have half of my sandwich. That was Passover. I'm not supposed to eat bread. I was crying, but something inside me told me that if this kid was willing to change, I had to be willing to accept. And so I took half a sandwich and I ate it. You know, we don't get over our trauma, ever. You'll never get over the death of your family or the death of your family. We get through it. We get through it because we have help from those around us through education, through mitigation, through hope, through faith. That's how we get through it. And that's what I try and teach our children and our congregation.
Thanks for sharing that story. Thank you. Pastor Adam, I'm a Christian woman, and so I'm going to leave the biblical stuff to you. I'm going to stay in my lane, right, asking the questions. But as I was reading Dr. Abuelaish's book, I kept going back to Matthew and thinking about blessed are the peacemakers. And so when you talk with people in your congregation here at your church, how do you talk about approaching the world with that kind of peace mindset? Because it's really hard sometimes, really hard.
It is really hard, and we live in a time that's so polarized that it's so easy for us, and especially during COVID where we've been socially isolated, to assume the worst about somebody when I don't have to sit across the table from you, I don't have to treat you as a human being, I can think about, people who hold these other views different from my own, politically or otherwise. And, I think the prime directive in both the Christian faith and the Jewish faith and in the Islamic faith, the prime ethic, I think, has to do with love. It's agape, it is selflessness, kindness. And I think about when we had the funeral actually in this room for your father and your son. And one of the passages, Mindy and I have talked about this multiple times since then, comes from Paul's letters where he talks about, do not be overcome with evil, but overcome evil with good, which is an act of sheer determination and grit, because you don't feel that. You decide to do that, which is exactly what you did, Dr. Abuelaish. You knew what hate could do to you, and you made a determined decision that you were going to live for your daughters and pursue kindness instead of hatred. You were going to pursue peace instead of war. And so I think that partly comes from our faith. So Mindy, you started, faith always wins, and this idea that in the aftermath of terrible hate and tragedy, that our faith might play some role, people's faith might play some role in giving them the capacity and the determination and the understanding that the only way forward is through compassion, kindness, speaking up for people who can't speak up for themselves, while at the same time, and not giving in to injustice, but at the same time not giving into hate. And so I think it is true, blessed are the peacemakers, and that is a very hard thing to do. I think of Jesus hanging on the cross saying, about the Romans who were hurling insults and, the pain that he was experiencing, Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they do. That is an act of sheer willpower. And the thing that struck me in knowing Mindy's story so well, and then hearing your story, Dr. Abuelaish, is that you all shine like stars in the sky, because we look at you, you experience something so horrible that most of us can't even fathom what that was like, and yet you are showing us what it means to be human. And that inspires the rest of us to say, I want to be, if they can do this, then maybe I can when somebody insults me or somebody hurts me or somebody rejects me or, somebody from another, coming from another particular viewpoint. And I just want to say again, I think I stand in awe of both of you. You're such remarkable people because of what you have done and how you've shown us a better way than revenge and vengeance and violence, but instead kindness and pursuit of peace and a determination to not return evil for evil, but blessing instead.
Thank you. Okay, it feels really insufficient to cut it short here. We're going to take a pause for just a moment because we want to introduce Rajitha and Lila, our Kindness Youth Leadership team members who have been really key to organizing this Others Day event.
When you registered for the event, you saw this creative, unique design for the Others Day button. Now let's hear from the artist behind it.
I'm Emily Bauer. I'm a junior at Blue Valley Southwest High School, and I'm the winner for the Others Day button for the 7 Days Art Button Contest. My art was inspired by the ways that we've had to change the way we treat others and the way that we've interacted with those around us due to COVID-19. I included the masks in the drawing because I thought it was really indicative of this past year and everything that's gone on. And I thought it would be important to highlight one of the ways that it's changed, that we've had to change the way that we treat others due to masks, and we've had to change the way we interact with people, and we've had to change the way that we display acts of kindness to people. My definition of others is pretty much just everyone around us, as simple as that might sound. It's everybody in our community. It's making sure that you're looking out for everyone. It's making sure that you're looking after your friends and family. And also it's making sure that you're being compassionate to everyone around the world, no matter how far away they are or how different their life might be to yours. It's important to remember to be kind and be understanding to everyone. Art can encourage kindness by really connecting people. Art transcends language, it transcends cultures. It can really be used to communicate to people across the world and really help us to understand each other, which is really important when it comes to kindness.
Thank you to Emily Bauer for that amazing design, and congratulations.
We'll be ending the live stream in just a few minutes, but the conversation will continue. You'll be receiving an email with the link to an extended conversation between our thoughtful panelists.
In the meantime, please attend the Onward Day Kindness Walk on this Sunday, the 25th, and tune into the extended panel discussion recording released this Saturday. You will receive an email with a link to the recording for everyone who registered for this event. If you are just tuning in and didn't register, you can find the recording on our Give 7 Days YouTube channel.
Thank you so much for attending Others Day 2021. So excited that you were able to participate. On behalf of Pam Pop and Lila Voltmer and me, thank you so much.
Raj, it was a fantastic program. Your committee did a really nice job with Others Day. We also want to thank the Church of the Resurrection for all of their help being a host. We also can't do this without all of our sponsors. So again, we appreciate all of donations and sponsorships to Faith Always Wins Foundation, which produces this year's 7th annual 7 Days Make a Ripple Change the World.
We also want to thank our partner cities this year because we really couldn't do without them either. So thank you so much for helping us make a ripple and change the world.
We certainly hope that you enjoyed learning about our two charities featured today, the Jewish Community Relations Bureau, AJC, and Urban Scholastic Center.
It's important to us to know what you thought about this event. So please fill out our survey that we will send to you after this event is over.
That's right. We have all of your registrations on email, and because we do, we will be distributing a message about a continuation of dialogue that will continue featuring our speaker, Dr. Izzeldin Abuelaish, Pastor Adam Hamilton, and Rabbi Art Nemitoff. We want to offer thank you to each of those gentlemen for being here and sharing all of their information, education, and inspiration for each of us on Others Day.